Hello and welcome to my review of the Space Marine Primaris Redemptor Dreadnought. One of these will set you back £40, and the first thing I'll do is just get a little bit of a size comparison out of the way, specifically one of the current Space Marine Dreadnoughts. Now I don't know if you can see that very well, but there is quite a considerable size difference now. This is a normal Space Marine too. Hopefully you can see the difference. So Space Marine, normal mini Marine will be able to probably walk or crouch under a Primaris Dreadnought's legs. And next to the old Dreadnought, probably up to his middle of his sarcophagus. And I'll compare him to similar sized Dreadnoughts later on in the review. So one thing I'll say is he comes with this instruction booklet. Great instruction booklet. It gives you plenty of options in there to change the weapons about and all the rest of it. We'll talk about that right now. So the one thing it first sort of highlights is that you could probably magnetize these frag launchers and put the bolters in, and that's one thing that you could do. I haven't. I've just kept with the frags, but there you go. So the first thing it sort of shows you is that you don't need to glue these in, so you can have them at funny angles or down like that if you really wanted for some reason, or you can just glue them in one place. It's really up to you. That's the first thing. The second thing is this little missile launcher type thing at the top. You don't have to glue it in. You can just slot it in and then rotate it if you wish. I've glued mine in. Another thing is this sarcophagus. It can come out, look, just like that. So you don't need to glue it in. So mine's loose there, but it stays in. And you can open the sarcophagus like that. So you could have the Dreadnought like that with your operator and have it a la Titanfall. I think that's what they've gone for anyway. Well, it certainly looks like that from where I'm coming from. So everything else is works well. The feet position is fine. You can choose to have the Dreadnought sort of walking forward. The heels aren't too bad, or the back toe isn't too bad. It's not as bad as I sort of thought. I mean, there it looks pretty bad, but the power plant is fine. It's got this huge sort of cog symbol and stuff going on. And then we get to the arms. Now the arms are fantastic. This kit has got some of the most movable parts I've ever seen in a kit. And if you haven't already felt the positivity coming through your screen right now about this model, you really should, because £40, people could say £40 for a Dreadnought is a lot of money. Well, this is a huge Dreadnought. It gives you plenty of options, plenty of movability, and it's £5 more than this thing. I mean, really? Look, this is £35. Standard pose. I've magnetised mine, so I've made mine as pretty much as poseable and stuff as possible. Legs are static. It would require a lot of hard work to make that into a dynamic pose. Need I say any more? Just go out and get one. You owe it to yourself, because this, in my opinion, is the best model out of the whole of the Primaris range that they've done. I think it's an absolute cracking model, and I wouldn't hesitate to buy a few more of them. It would be really cool if they brought out sort of ironclad versions or ones with missile packs on them at the top, because it's an excellent basis to base a load of miniatures off. Anyway, moving back onto topic. So the arms, they can move up and down. Okay, you can and they're quite solid in their movement. Then you can take them out. So that gives you an option there. If you had separate weapons, I don't know, Forge World, are you listening? You can make some different weapons that would just fit in there. Then the fist rotates quite easily, and then it moves up and down like so. Although it's not the best, you know, I've built it as you should, but so your results may vary. But you can still put it in a pose, you know, a multitude of poses. It's just fantastic. Another thing that it can do, which I've stopped it doing, is it can move like this weapon, like that, you know, on its axis. I've stopped that. I've glued that in there because this one for this arm was just a bit too loose and it was touching the knee. So I've gone for sort of a neutral area, a neutral position. But I can still have him like that or whatever, or way out there. Whatever you want, you know, it's got so many options. I think it's just incredible that Games Workshop, they could have just made a Dreadnought that had a gun and a power fist. Let's face it, they've done it before. They could have just done that and charged £40 or £50, but they didn't. You know, they're the only two things that sort of move about on the old style Dreadnought. They're the only two things. You could magnetise them. I haven't because they fit in quite snugly. He says, great timing. Yeah, so that's it. But this kit, it's massive, and they've just spent so much time designing it. All the little parts, the customisation. I think this is a really great step forward. And £40 is well worth your money. It really is for what you get. So this gun, it's a little bit loose, maybe it's a little bit loose. So I could glue that in position, or could just have it, because there's no real reason why he would be firing his gun that high. I just like it when it's down and he's sort of moving forward. Or just have it like that as he's moving forward. So yeah, this gun does that. But what I've also done, and this is a bit of Super Saiyan magic, is I have magnetised it. Now, you don't have to do this. This particular gun didn't go in there that snugly. So I put a very small magnet in there and a very small magnet in there. So it will slot in now, and then it's got that magnetisation to keep it attached to the shoulder. Here is the other weapon with a little magnet in. So that one fits in a little bit better, and we'll just attach that just like that. You just change your weapon. Again, up and down is a bit loose, one could say, but there you go. You know, could have it in a position, keep it there for display or whatever. So just like that, you've changed the weapons and the whole sort of look and feel of the model. I think that's incredible. I think if you sprayed it and painted it, these pegs might fit in a bit better, but then you're rubbing paint on paint. I think the tried and tested way is just to put a very small magnet in, and then at least you don't run the risk of them coming out or anything like that. That's what I would suggest you do. That is the weapon options and what I've done with mine, and I think it's great that it gives you the parts for both. Yeah, the next step is just to create one with another Redemptor fist and have two fists. Surely that is the next logical step for an ironclad or a siege version of this, to have, you know, a pack of missiles there, and then two fists. Instead of these, have flamers or whatever. I mean, maybe you could possibly put the flamers on there as well, but I certainly didn't experiment with that. I've just kept this little Gatling cannon on there. So there you go. That is the model, and a look at the model. Now I'll do a more expansive size comparison, and then I'll talk about the rules. So this is pretty much the order of things at the moment. I'll bring the 10-in-1 Dreadnought in the second sort of part of this. But as you can see, standard Space Marine, then you've got a standard boxy Dreadnought, then you've got the Contemptor, then you've got the Leviathan, and then you've got the Redemptor. So the Leviathan's definitely very bulky, and one could argue in game terms it's got better weapons and, you know, better wounds and all the rest of it. But look at the height wise and sort of the width of the Redemptor. Look at the size of the base as well. Base is bigger. It's a cracking looking model, and I'll just show you it next to a Leviathan. So yeah, it is bigger than a Leviathan Dreadnought, but I definitely think Leviathan looks better. But that's just my opinion. You might think that the Redemptor looks better, but there you go. So now let's just compare it to the largest Dreadnought that Games Workshop and Forge World make, which is the Telemon Dreadnought, which is the same price as the Leviathan, with the Redemptor being 40 and these two guys being £72 each. So the Telemon is bigger. It's got these huge pauldrons or shoulder armour, whatever you want to call them. Its gun is pretty large. Its fist is almost the same size, and it's got these plasma ejectors on it, and then it's got a much larger sort of, well, it's not a missile launcher, it's a spiculous bolt launcher, but it looks like a missile launcher. So it's got the height, but yeah, it doesn't have that bulk. But look at the legs. The legs are quite sort of streamlined, quite custom, and all the rest of it. So there you go. That's just an observation. Someone said on my Instagram, you know, think of it from a mechanical sort of point of view, that you know, you don't need a big sort of heel toe or heel when you're going forwards. Well, if that's the case, why are these sort of heels or back toes much larger than that tiny little quite fragile looking thing? I mean, look at the Leviathan. I mean, if these were, because that's from Space Marine Legions and that's from Custodes, you know, if that's sort of the norm for walkers and dreadnoughts, I just question, for its size and its bulk, to have these small toes, even if you're looking at it from a sort of physics perspective and, you know, walking backwards, different mechanics and things like that, when you compare it to the other dreadnoughts, because I'd say that this dreadnought is as heavy, if not heavier, than the other two, especially with its weapon loadout, ammunition, things like that. But there you go. And then if we just quickly, I got the Night Titan out, so I might as well just show you a Night Titan. So this is next to a Night Titan, which, yeah, I mean, it's probably goes up to his face, maybe, if you can see that, compared to a Night Titan. Definitely has got a presence, and you know, looks pretty good next to a Night Titan too. But yeah, I thought I'd show you that size comparison as well. And finally, we've come to the rules section of the review. Now, I'll be comparing it to a standard Dreadnought. I'll be doing a separate video where I compare it to the Leviathan and the Telemon Dreadnoughts, so stay tuned for that. So I'll just run through the Redemptor Dreadnought's rules and then I'll compare it with the standard Dreadnought. Its movement is 8 inches. Its ballistic skill and weapon skill are 3+, and that's with its wounds being from 7 to 13 plus. Maybe you can get more than 13. At 4 to 6 wounds, you've got movement of 6. Weapon skill, ballistic skill is 4, and then plus, and then wounds 1 to 3. Movement goes down to 4 inches, and ballistic skill and weapon skill go down to 5+. Its strength is 7. Its toughness 7. Like I said, it's 13 wounds. It's got 4 attacks, leadership 8, and its save is 3+. Its standard equipment says that it comes with a heavy onslaught cannon, a heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, a heavy flamer, Icarus rocket pod, 2 Fragstorm grenade launchers, and a Redemptor fist. So these Fragstorm grenade launchers, 18 inches, assault D6. So it comes with 2 of them. So already you've got a potential 12 shots at strength 4, damage 1, which isn't too bad. I mean, that could potentially wipe out half a Space Marine squad with the Fragstorm grenade launchers. So, I mean, grenade launchers, you always sort of think of, oh, strength 3 and a poor range. But no, this is strength 4 and, you know, possible 6 shots. Heavy flamer's a heavy flamer. It's got a range of 8 inches, heavy D6 shot, strength 5. AP is -1 and it automatically hits. The heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, this puppy right here, which you'll also find on the repulsor if you don't equip it with the las talon, is a range 30-inch weapon, 12 shots, strength 5, AP -1 and damage 1. So that's pretty decent. So you got 12 shots there. So already you could essentially, just with the heavy onslaught cannon and a Fragstorm grenade launcher, if you're really lucky, you could get 24 shots just with those 2 weapons, but you'd have to be incredibly lucky. Then you've got an Icarus rocket pod, which is a 24-inch range, heavy D3, strength 7, -1 AP, damage 1, not too shabby sort of anti-air weapon. You add 1 to all hit rolls made for this weapon against targets that can fly. Subtract 1 from the hit rolls made for this weapon against other targets. So there you've got, on average, 2 extra shots of strength 7 just from this tiny little launcher here, which is fantastic. And in my eyes, I think the Primaris aggressors should have had something like that instead of their little grenade launchers. I mean, in the fluff, it writes them as missile launchers too, or rockets. Anyway, then the macro plasma incinerator, which is basically the souped up version of the incinerators that the Hellblasters have. Again, because it's a plasma weapon, it's got a standard and a supercharge rule set. 36-inch range, heavy D6, strength 8, -4 AP, and 1 damage. However, if you supercharge it, it bumps it up to strength 9 and damage of 2. For each hit roll of 1, the bearer suffers 1 mortal wound. So you could be walking around supercharging that strength 9 weapon, similar to a 36-inch range las cannon, basically, if you wanted to do it that way. Then you've got the little Redemptor onslaught Gatling cannon, which is 24-inch range, heavy 6 shots. So it's essentially a slightly shorter range than the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, but with half the shots. Then Stormbolter, if you want to have that instead of the Fragstorm launchers. And the Redemptor Fist is just melee strength ×2. Now, this goes back to the rules. Is the strength ×2 maximum of 10? Then you get strength 10. AP is -3 and damage is D6. We can replace all of its weapons and things. And then you're looking at the point system where you're going to have to add points to the model. It's running up at 140 points, which isn't too bad, really. But then obviously you're going to have to buy all of your weapons and things like that. So it can replace its heavy onslaught Gatling cannon with macro plasma incinerator, and it can replace its Fragstorm grenade launchers with 2 Stormbolters. If it explodes, when it's reduced to 0 wounds, you roll a d6. On a 6 it explodes, and each unit within 6 inches suffers d6 mortal wounds. So there's a chance of causing quite a lot of mortal wounds when it explodes. So you want to be getting this thing into combat just for that, because even a Contemptor Dreadnought suffers D3 mortal wounds if it explodes. And with 13 wounds, it's got a good chance of making it across the battlefield. I think it's a really decent model. It's a decent model, good rules. Like the Repulsor, it's armed to the teeth. You compare it just to a standard Dreadnought, which has Power Fist with a built-in sort of flamer and then an assault cannon. You compare that to the heavy onslaught Gatling cannon, then the frag launchers, then the anti-air, up to 3 shot, good chance of it getting 3 shot, strength 7 anti-air weapon. Then you've got the fist, and then you've got an underslung weapon too, and then it can explode and potentially six mortal wounds. So if anything, it's a pretty good bomb. I get in their line, and then if you want to go sort of tank hunting or anything like that, you can just equip that macro plasma incinerator and just keep supercharging it all the time. And we'll just compare it with a normal Dreadnought, which has 8 wounds, but it's movement of 6, so it's 6 inches all the time. Whereas this one can move further for 6 of its wounds, which is pretty good. The fact that it can move further even though it's bigger. And it's got those 4 attacks, which is great. Another great thing I like is it's an elite choice. It's not a heavy support choice. So it does free up your heavy support choice, which is always overcrowded for Space Marines. So you can have that repulsor tank in your heavy support choice. You can have that Land Raider or Thunderfire Cannon or Devastator or Hellblaster Squad or something like that. So in summary, it really is a cracking model. It surpassed my expectations. It was an absolute joy to build, really straightforward and easy. Plenty of options. It's got good rules, good weapons, decent number of wounds. It's definitely one of the best models out there overall in terms of sort of building and its options and its posability. It really is a fantastic model. I'll say it again if I haven't already. For £5 more than that, it really is a no-brainer. And out of all of these releases, I mean, I know I haven't got the Repulsor yet, and I know there's a few more Primaris releases that are coming out. Out of all the releases, this really is the best one so far. Anyway, that's the end of my review. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.